And welcome back to Learning in Ohio. 2 years of disruption. When COVID-19 came full force in March of 2020, school districts across Ohio and the nation scrambled to respond to the rapid changes required to keep their students safe. Yet those changes took a toll, prompting students and teachers to leave classrooms. Some students left because their parents just decided to homeschool them. Teachers left sometimes because it was more that they felt like they could handle. And so that exacerbated the teacher shortage trend. Dr. Kevin Jones is the Dean and Assistant Professor of Education at the School of Education at Cedarville University. Dr. Jones, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Good to join you all today.
All right, so let's start here with the teacher shortage. Across the country, community members have been volunteering as substitutes in classrooms. What's really kind of led to this issue, and do you feel like COVID is fully to blame for it?
Yeah, praise God for the substitutes that are currently filling in. But some recent RAND surveys said that, about 74% of teachers, as of like March 20, reported that they would probably not teach out the entirety of their career. Same RAND survey went out March 21, and that number was now down to 69% of teachers saying that they expect to completely teach out their terms. And, my fear is we continue with that 5% decrease over the next few years. Teacher retention is horrible, and teacher shortages will continue to increase. And that is due to COVID and the stress that teachers are incurring as relates to, the form of education that they're having to deal with right now.
And so what do you think is really at the bottom of that decision making?
Yeah, again, I think at the bottom is the instability that COVID has put us through. Districts, for the most part, are doing all that they can to help support their teachers and school leaders and parents and school bus drivers and other community stakeholders. But COVID, again, 2 years ago, caught us by surprise and continues to increase the difficulty in educating today's students. And so teachers are under stress and under pressure. A lot of people still don't understand all that takes place in the classrooms, and in some sense are holding some teachers more responsible and accountable than they necessarily should be.
Is there any concern at this point? Because as we're seeing, the number of students shift to homeschool in the recent years, do you feel like there's a concern about that? And then do you feel like those students will end up going back to traditional schools next fall?
Yeah, so the concern I have, my family, we've homeschooled for some while. We public school when COVID hit. My wife and I were blessed enough to be able to bring our kids home and do that. Even the uptick of African-American families in about 2003, I think NPR reported that only 3% of African-American families homeschooled their children. That went up about 15%. The research is still out on how many families will return in August of this year. I think that will have to do with what any surges will look like and what schools, public and charter and parochial schools, continue to do to mitigate the spread of COVID and how comfortable parents feel sending their kids back. One concern I have as parents continue to try to homeschool is that, some just have not been formally trained. There are formally trained programs like we offer here at Cedarville University where the professors are doing all they can with research-based methods in order to train good teachers. And sometimes that burden is a little heavy for parents to have to carry, particularly when they have multiple kids spread across, elementary, middle, and high school.
Dr. Kevin Jones, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
As we just finished talking about why teachers may have felt compelled to leave the profession they love over the last 2 years, others have remained. I talked to one teacher in a district that's just southeast of Columbus who was on the verge of leaving but stopped short after adopting a new outlook. Here's her story.